If you're like me, you probably love a good campfire hunting story. As a self-filmer and YouTuber, I'm always looking for the story behind the hunt. Now on some hunts, it's incredibly obvious with tons of backstory or some unique element to the hunt. But on this hunt, the best part of the story wasn't revealed until the hunt was over, and it surprised even me. At first glance, you would think this story started the first week of November when I was hunting over a scrape during the rut. Had some good activity and some good success. But what I didn't realize is that the story had actually started long before.
Meh. Meh.
I don't know. I just shot a nice buck. Though I don't know if it was on film. I don't know if I didn't get a pass through. I'm really nervous right now. I'm shaking so bad. I thought I heard him crash, but I'm not sure. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I look over and there's a buck like 15 yards right here. And I knew he was heading for this scrape. And all I could do was hit the record button. I didn't even realize that my camera was in manual focus from my hunt last night when it got dark. I don't know if he was in focus. I don't even know if he was in frame. All I had time to do was hit the record button, grab my bow. He walked to this scrape, didn't work the scrape, kind of stood there for a second and started to walk on, all at a really steep quartering away angle. I grunted at him and he stopped and turned back toward me just enough where I felt comfortable to take the shot. I aimed back. I saw my arrow hit, did not pass through. I'm hoping that meant it hit the far side leg. If it did, then he's dead. I'm gonna check this footage. I also have a trail camera down here in video mode, which hopefully caught maybe what happened. So I'm gonna review the footage and then maybe go back to the house, take this trail camera card back to the house. And depending on what I see on the footage, I might give him an hour or two. It might be that I caught liver, it might be lungs. I just don't know. I didn't feel super confident on my shot placement because it just happened so fast.
I had never taken such a steep quartering away shot before. But the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that I had hit that offside shoulder. Now, if I had hit the offside shoulder, I was pretty confident that I had a dead buck. But I still wasn't convinced exactly where and what I had hit. And so I decided, just to be safe, I was going to give it plenty of time before I took up the trail.
Well, everyone, it's been about 4 hours since the shot now. I reviewed the footage over and over again, and I'm pretty sure it's a dead deer, but I just wasn't confident about the exact shot placement and exactly what and where I hit. So I decided to give it plenty of time. There's no rush, and so we just made it back to the spot of the shot. My wife and Grace are here, And Pastor Nathaniel, he's been hunting with me some this year, just hasn't made it into any videos yet. But he's here, he's gonna help us track also, and hopefully it's not too far away. Let's start tracking. Well, Pastor Nathaniel just found blood. Oh, look at this. This is blood all over this tree. That's good. I mean, that's a lot of blood. Haven't seen the arrow yet, so. Yep, that's it. See antlers. Well, everyone, we found them pretty easily. There's plenty of blood. I was worried about not having a good blood trail without getting a pass through, but the arrow's still in him. It looks like maybe it poked out enough on the bottom side to get a little bit of blood there as well. Probably only made it 100, 150 yards. So I'm super grateful that we found him. He's stiff, so he died on his feet. I'm pretty sure. I don't think all this waiting 4 hours was necessary, but I'm glad we played it safe rather than ended up sorry. Was a little bit of ground shrinkage, a little bit smaller than what I thought when he was walking through this morning. I thought, boy, he looked like he was a pretty big one, but you know, I guess that's what buck fever does to you sometimes. All the same, I wouldn't have passed him even if I had known. He's a good buck for me, and so I'm happy to get him. I'm happy to film my buck tag. On now to filming some other hunts, maybe filming for some friends. I think probably one of the next things is seeing if we can get Pastor Nathaniel a deer with his bow. Maybe film some of that. We'll see how that goes. And overall, it's been a good season. I'm grateful to have my buck tag filled, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Now after the hunt, I really began to think about what was the story of this hunt. It all happened so fast there really didn't seem to be much of a story to tell. It wasn't until the day after the hunt, as I was scrolling through some trail camera videos, that the real story of this hunt hit me like a ton of bricks. You see, a few weeks prior, another hunter had shot a buck on the same property and never recovered it. A few days after that, I got a trail camera video of this same deer, sporting 2 new broadhead holes, but seeming very much alive and healthy. Now when I harvested my buck, it never even crossed my mind that this could be the same deer. It just didn't look like the buck that I had pictured in my brain from those trail camera videos. But as I scrolled back through the videos after the hunt, I realized that this was the same deer. I sat there with my jaw on the floor as I examined the antlers of my buck against the video of that wounded deer, time by time, and realized this was the same deer. But what really threw me for a loop is that when I had skinned this deer and processed the deer, there was nothing that ever gave me any indication that this deer had previously been shot with a broadhead. So because I processed my own deer, I was able to go out, get the hide, get the rib cage, and do a little investigating to put it to rest once and for all.
So it's been 2 days since I shot that buck, and last night I was going through some trail camera pictures, and my mind was absolutely blown when I realized the buck that I shot is actually the same buck that I posted a video about a couple weeks ago, where the buck was shot on this same property by another hunter. The shot looked really good, but I could not figure out how the deer survived. We got it on trail camera with wounds and everything. However, it's been long enough that those wounds had healed up enough that they were not obvious, and I never actually realized this was the same deer until I started comparing some trail camera pictures last night and realized this is the same deer. So I actually came back out and got the hide out of the trash so that I could actually look at it and look at some things. So like I said, it was healed over a good bit, but once you started looking and you actually were looking for those things, right here you can see the entry hole from that original shot. This is from the previous shot, the previous hunter. There's the entry hole. And then over here, this was even more covered up, but once you move it, the hair, and you know what you're looking for, there was the exit hole. And then obviously you've already watched the shot. There's my entry. It was quite a ways back, but it was a sharp quartering too, and I hit the offside shoulder. So it's really interesting that you can actually see the entry and the exit on the hide, and definitely 100% confirmed this is that same deer. Now I'm sure you probably want to know, if you watched that other video, What happened with this original shot? Well, the bottom line is this kind of left me with more questions than it did answers. I wasn't really able to investigate the internals because at the time that I processed the deer, I had no idea this was the same deer. But I was able to investigate the rib cage, and I could not find any entry or exit into the rib cage from that original shot. What I did find was a weird nick with some ingrown hairs at the very, very top of the backbone, very, very high up. And so the best that I can tell, it went over the top of the backbone somehow and never actually entered the rib cage. Does not look that way from the trail camera pictures. I don't understand it, but as far as I can tell, that arrow did not go into the rib cage.
So there you have it, the story of a buck that survived an arrow, healed enough to hide his wounds, and was shot again 18 days later. And as Paul Harvey used to say, and now you know the rest of the story. I hope you enjoyed this campfire story. Until next time, remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.